The wineglass shook as her daughter's words cut the room in half. Margaret Ellis, 78, widow and retired nurse, did not argue, serve him or go. Her son-in-law smirked, certain she'd fold. Instead she folded her shawl, lifted her chin, and left without a sound. By dawn her daughter's dream of inheritance was already slipping away, because Margaret hadn't walked out empty-handed, she'd walked out holding the deed. I'm curious, where in the world are you joining us from? Drop your city or country in the comments, and make sure you're subscribed for all the latest updates. Carla stood motionless near the island, her hands still wet from rinsing out the coffee pot. Across from her, Melissa leaned against the fridge, arms crossed tight over her chest, as if bracing for the next gust of truth. I don't want to say this, Mom, Melissa began, but her tone said otherwise. But Kyle's right, this can't go on. Carla didn't speak. She didn't need to. The air was already full of accusation. You're either going to be part of this household his way, Melissa continued, or you're going to have to go. The words weren't angry. They were cold, final, like a decision Melissa had rehearsed and justified dozens of times in her head. Carla was 62, barely 6 weeks out from major abdominal surgery. She had moved in with her daughter and son-in-law out of necessity. She hadn't asked for luxury, just rest, time, and a sliver of grace. Instead, she'd cooked every meal since week 2, folded laundry that didn't belong to her, changed diapers and carpooled. No thank you, no how are you holding up. Not once. And Kyle? He couldn't even make eye contact unless he needed something. I'm not trying to be cruel, Melissa added, quieter now. It's just, Kyle says it feels like we're supporting you, and we can't afford that. Carla turned off the faucet. The steady drip of the tap suddenly sounded like thunder. She wiped her hands slowly, deliberately, then folded the towel with care. She looked around the kitchen one last time, the magnets on the fridge, the baby monitor on the counter, the dirty cereal bowls Melissa had left out that morning. I see, Carla said simply. Melissa hesitated. Mom, but Carla was already walking out of the room. Upstairs she moved like someone performing a ritual. Folded sweaters into her suitcase, packed her medication, removed her small cash envelope from the drawer she'd taped it under. She didn't cry. There was no panic. No begging. Just a smile. Small. Silent. Steady. By dusk she was waiting on the curb with her suitcase and a folded umbrella. The Colorado sky streaked in violet and steel gray. Melissa didn't come outside. Neither did Kyle. The porch light flicked on automatically, as if by reflex, not courtesy. The taxi pulled up. The driver, a woman in her 30s, popped the trunk and asked softly, "Heading to the airport?" Carla shook her head. "No, just downtown." As they pulled away, Carla glanced back once, but only to be sure the door was still closed. At the first red light she pulled out her phone and opened the encrypted app she hadn't touched in years. A single contact was saved there, Eileen, contingency only. Carla typed 5 words, activate the file. I'm ready. She hit send, then exhale. On the curb Carla texts a contact. Activate the file. I'm ready. I didn't leave with nothing. I'd been preparing for this moment longer than they knew. The cab dropped her off just outside a sleepy strip mall in the next town over. The kind of place no one noticed. A liquor store, a payday loan office, and tucked between them, a squat gray building with faded block letters, Easy Mini Storage. Carla paid in cash. She didn't wait for the driver to pull away before stepping through the side gate, moving like someone returning home. Unit she'd rented it under her maiden name a year after her husband Gregory died. Back then she didn't know exactly why, only that something in her gut had said prepare. The lock clicked open with practiced ease. Inside, not clutter but clarity. 3 labeled bins, 1 dented metal filing cabinet, a single trunk with wheels, and a fireproof safe bolted to the wall. She knelt, heart hammering as she turned the dial. Inside were copies of Gregory's legal documents, a notarized list of his assets, an unopened envelope with his handwriting on it, and a flash drive marked Melissa Pyle. Contingency. She pulled it out with a steady hand. Carla checked into the Motel Willoughby off I-25, paying for 2 nights up front with her backup debit card. The room smelled like artificial citrus and old air conditioning, but it had a lock, a desk and silence. She laid everything out in careful rows. Marriage license, Gregory's death certificate, old bank records, and a folder labeled in her own neat handwriting, contingency plan, Melissa Kyle. She called Eileen. You got the message, Carla. Eileen didn't skip a beat. Damn right I did. I've had the go bag packed since Thanksgiving. Carla smiled. I need your help sorting the paper trail. You're not alone in this, Carla. Not anymore. Carla worked until midnight, mapping dates, cross-referencing bank statements. Her pension had stopped depositing 2 months after she moved in with Melissa. Her health account had been drained by someone claiming to be her power of attorney, but she'd never signed one. And then, in the back pocket of Gregory's legal binder, she found a printed email, dated 5 years earlier. Gregory had flagged a suspicious transfer from one of his accounts. It went to a company he didn't recognize. Owner Kyle H. Chamber. He had written, Melissa won't believe me if I tell her, but something's wrong here. Carla stared at the page. Her late husband had seen the shadow forming, and no one had listened. She pulled out a yellow notepad and wrote just 4 words. You were right, Greg. Then, underlined it twice. Carla finds proof that her late husband had suspected Kyle of financial theft years ago. They thought I'd disappear. Instead, I remembered who I used to be. Carla stood in front of the mirror at the motel holding scissors. Her silver hair, once long and tightly wound in a bun, now fell loosely past her shoulders. A relic of who she had to be for Melissa, for Kyle, for everyone but herself. She raised the scissors and began cutting. Snip, snip, snip. No hesitation, just renewal. By the time she stepped out of the motel that morning, her hair was short, feathered at the edges, and framing a face that looked finally awake. She walked 2 blocks to the bank and opened an account under her full maiden name, Carla Marie Benton. The clerk asked if she was starting over. Carla smiled. Something like that. Next, she updated her ID at the DMV, signed up for a new phone number, registered for email. Everything clean, private, hers. That afternoon, Carla stretched out a yoga mat on the motel carpet and began her old physical therapy routine. It hurt, her abdomen tugged and her hip joints ached, but she kept going. 10 minutes, then 15, then 20. Each breath was a reclamation. At dusk she opened her journal. The first entry started like this. Day 1. I didn't leave a house. I left a slow erasure. She wrote about Kyle's temper masked in sarcasm. About Melissa's gaslighting. Mom, you're just confused. About being made to feel like a guest in a home she partly paid for. And with every word she felt her backbone rebuilt. The next day she walked into the Elder Rights Center of Colorado, a red brick office near the courthouse with sun-faded pamphlets in the lobby and a receptionist who greeted her like she mattered. She didn't say much at first, just asked about local groups. The woman nodded. We have a Wednesday circle. All women. Confidential. No pressure to share. Carla showed up that week. Quiet. Listening. Taking in stories from women who had given everything to their children. Money, time, homes, and were repaid with silence or cruelty. One woman said, I just wanted to be needed, until I realized I was being used. Carla's throat tightened. She looked down, then up, and whispered, Same. She stayed behind after the meeting to help stack chairs. Another woman named Ruth said, Justice is possible, but you have to speak. Carla nodded slowly, her voice low but firm. I'm getting ready. One woman says, if you want justice you'll need to go public. I never signed away my power. They just assumed I... Carla walked into the legal aid office with a tote bag full of truth. Her paperwork was divided, labeled, chronologically arranged. Years of bank statements, Gregory's flagged emails, photos of mail with missing checks, a copy of her pension deposits ending the month. Kyle helped her set up automatic billing. The attorney, Sharika Patel, mid-30s, sharp eyes, no nonsense, looked through the first few pages and paused. You did your homework, she said. I had years of practice keeping quiet, Carla replied. I'm done with that. Sharika flagged one document quickly. Melissa's name on a reverse mortgage application. The signature on the page was Carla's. Or close enough. You're sure you didn't sign this? Carla laughed once. I couldn't even grip a pen the week that was dated. Sharika's jaw tightened. This is felony level forgery, and if your name's on the house title, that means they used your equity to get that mortgage. She flipped to the next page. Kyle's name listed as the financial contact. A quick search revealed the LLC attached to the transaction didn't exist on paper anymore. Shell company, Sharika said. Classic move. But sloppy. They kept the same shell company had been receiving consulting payments from Melissa's household account. Carla's pension had been rerouted to an entirely separate checking account, one with Melissa listed as co-owner, likely created during Carla's first hospital stay. And the worst part, a credit card Carla never applied for, opened in her name, had racked up $8,300 in charges. All electronics, all delivered to Melissa and Kyle's house. Sharika leaned back in her chair. This is elder financial abuse. Period. You didn't walk away empty-handed. You walked away with evidence. Carla blinked hard but said nothing for a moment. Just folded her hands. They thought I was too old to notice, too grateful to fight. Sharika looked her dead in the eye. Let's prove them wrong. They filed a formal complaint with the Office of Adult Protective Services, then another with the State Housing Board. Sharika also began drafting a civil suit to freeze assets connected to the reverse mortgage and to subpoena account holders tied to the fraud. You're going to shake their world, Carla, she said. Carla didn't smile. She didn't glow. She just whispered. Good. That night, Carla sat on the motel bed, rereading the list of debts Kyle had accumulated under her social security number. Payday loans, cell phone plans, even a used car lease. Repoed 6 months ago. They didn't just exploit me, she muttered. They used me as collateral. She looked at the ceiling, spoke aloud. Not anymore. Carla's name was tied to debts Kyle incurred using her SSN. Carla whispers. They turned me into collateral. Not anymore. I gave birth to her, raised her, loved her, and now I couldn't recognize her at all. Carla sat at the motel desk beneath the soft glow of a yellowed lamp. Her journal was open. But this time she wasn't documenting numbers or timelines. She was writing to her daughter, not to reconnect, not for closure, just to make the betrayal real. Dear Melissa, I don't know when you started seeing me as a burden, but I remember when you used to run into my arms just to be held. She paused, swallowed hard, then kept writing. I did everything right, didn't I? Birthday cakes, bedtime songs, staying up through the flu, staying silent when your father disappointed us both. The memories came in waves, stronger than grief, more potent than rage. Melissa at 5, begging her to read the same book 3 times in a row. Melissa at 14, slamming her bedroom door after Carla said she couldn't go out in a crop top. Melissa at 25, holding Carla's hand at Gregory's funeral, crying, but somehow distant. And then, coldness. Withdrawals masked as busy schedules, help that became expectation, love that calcified into something transactional. Carla printed out copies of the forged mortgage documents and tucked them into the envelope. She sealed it. No return address, no signature, just the truth. She mailed it that afternoon. She didn't wait for a response. That night she resumed her physical therapy routine, pushing herself harder. Planks, resistance band pulls, breath control. Her body ached, but for the first time in months, it didn't feel weak. It felt like something she owned. Eileen picked her up the next evening for the Thursday Women's Community Circle. It wasn't just a support group anymore. It was a room full of storm survivors. Women who had outlasted abandonment, bankruptcy, betrayal. Tonight, Carla spoke. My daughter gave me a choice. She told the room, serve her husband or leave. Gasps, murmurs, but mostly nods. They understood. I left, and I'm not sorry. Applause. Not loud, just enough. The next morning, Carla's phone buzzed with a single message from an unknown number. Melissa, did you send this? Why are you doing this to me? Carla read it twice, then set the phone face down. She didn't owe an answer. Not anymore. Melissa texts for the first time in weeks. Did you send this? Why are you doing this to me? She accused me of betrayal, but I only revealed the truth she buried. Carla didn't respond to the text. She read it, registered the guilt masquerading as confusion. then blocked the number. She'd given Melissa a lifetime of access. No more. At the legal aid office, Sharika met her with a new folder in hand. DA's office is reviewing your packet. Housing board's opening an investigation. Could take weeks, but the wheels are turning. Carla exhaled. You did everything right, Sharika added. You documented. You reported. You didn't retaliate. That matters. It did, but Carla had spent her life doing things right, and still ended up discarded like expired food. Now she wasn't chasing right, she was claiming real. Days passed in quiet progress. She received a letter from the state pension office, confirming that her monthly payments had been reinstated. The missing months were being reviewed for restitution. A small check arrived soon after. Not much, but Carla opened a checking account in her name only, using her birth certificate and newly updated ID. It felt ceremonial, like reclaiming her own signature. She bought a new winter coat, nothing flashy, just warm, just hers. Then she walked into the Elder Rights Center with a sealed envelope. I want to donate this, she told the front desk woman, to your legal fund, anonymous. The woman blinked, surprised. You sure? Carla nodded. I'm not the only one. That night, Carla made herself a cup of chamomile tea, sat in her motel chair with the blinds closed, and let herself rest. Not sleep, rest, the kind that came from knowing she wasn't helpless anymore. Then her burner phone buzz, unknown number, voicemail. She listened. Hi, this is April Martinez from Channel 7. We received a tip about elder financial abuse and your name came up. We'd love to talk confidentially if you'd prefer. Carla sat still. Someone had noticed. She looked out at the cold Colorado sky. She didn't feel small anymore. A news reporter calls asking if she'd be willing to speak about elder financial abuse. They wanted my voice. For the first time in years, I used it. Carla met the reporter at a local library, neutral ground. No cameras, just a voice recorder and a warm cup of coffee between them. April Martinez, mid-40s, sharp and disarming, listened more than she spoke. Carla liked that. I can blur names, change locations. April offered, or, if you're ready, we can use your name. That's your call. Carla thought for a moment, then looked April in the eye. Use my name. She wasn't hiding anymore. They talked for over an hour. Carla told her everything. The surgery, the care turned control. The day Melissa stood in that kitchen and gave her the ultimatum like she was ordering groceries. She described the forged signatures, the rerouted pension, the cold silence that followed her exit. She didn't cry. She didn't dramatize. She told the truth like a woman with nothing left to lose. The story aired 2 nights later during the evening broadcast. Carla sat alone in the motel watching herself on screen, her voice softer than she remembered, her spine straighter than it had been in years. Her name wasn't bleeped. Her face wasn't blurred. She was. The piece spread online quietly at first, then virally across elder support groups, retirement forums, and advocacy circles. Dozens of comments, then hundreds. This happened to me. Thank you for speaking up. I thought I was alone. Carla read each one. She didn't respond, but she felt them. She wasn't just reclaiming her life, she was giving shape to others. 2 days later, a non-profit group called Safe Years Now reached out. We saw the segment, the director said. Would you consider helping us shape a speaker series? You don't have to be polished, just real. Carla didn't hesitate. I'm in. That week she stood in front of her first small group, 10 women in a community center basement, and told her story without notes, without apology. They didn't applaud when she finished. They stood in silence, some nodding, some wiping tears. She had found her audience. Her phone buzzed again. This time, an email from an address she hadn't seen in months. Subject: the interview. From Melissa Green. I saw the broadcast. I want to talk. Carla stared at the screen, then closed the laptop. Melissa sends an email. I saw the broadcast. I want to talk. She asked to meet. I agreed, not to reconcile, but to confirm who she'd become. The coffee shop Melissa chose was the same one Carla used to take her to after doctor's appointments and parent-teacher meetings. Back then, Melissa would order hot cocoa with extra whipped cream. Carla always paid. This time Carla ordered black coffee. No sweetness, no illusion. Melissa arrived 10 minutes late. Her eyes were puffy, her sweater designer, her phone never more than inches from her palm. She didn't hug Carla, just sat. I didn't know everything Kyle was doing, she said quickly. I thought you were okay with it. Carla tilted her head, expression unreadable. You thought I was okay with having my pension stolen, my house mortgaged without consent. Melissa flinched. Kyle told me we'd pay you back once things stabilized. Carla sipped her coffee. They never were stable. You just stopped looking. The conversation slipped into familiar patterns, Melissa deflecting, minimizing, stammering through half apologies wrapped in justifications. I didn't mean for it to go that far. You should have told me you were miserable. You never asked for help. Carla sat through it all, like a survivor sitting through the weather report, after the storm. When Melissa finally paused, Carla folded her napkin, slowly, deliberately. I told you, many times, you just didn't hear me, because hearing me meant doing something uncomfortable. Melissa's face hardened. You're blowing all of this up. You're hurting the kids. Carla leaned in slightly. No, I protected myself. You're the one who hurt them, by teaching them it was okay to erase someone once they're no longer useful. Melissa's eyes filled, but Carla didn't reach for her. The old Carla might have, but she wasn't here anymore. Melissa looked down at her coffee, untouched. So what now? Carla stood. You figure out who you are without someone holding up your mirror. She walked out without looking back. Melissa warns, you're hurting the kids by doing this. They used the children as shields, but I knew better than to aim at them. The card was simple, soft lavender, with watercolor birds on the front. Carla had chosen it carefully, skipping over the ones that said we miss you, or thinking of you, in favor of something quieter, something honest. Inside, she wrote in careful flowing penmanship, Grandma loves you. I had to leave to protect myself. That doesn't mean I left you. I hope you're happy, healthy, and kind. Remember that love should never hurt or come with silence. I'm always thinking of you. She didn't sign it Grandma Carla, just Grandma. Let them decide which version they remember. She addressed the envelope by hand, and mailed it from a post office 3 towns over. No return address, just a message sent gently into their world. She didn't expect a reply, she just wanted the truth to get somewhere. 3 days later, Carla's attorney called. Guess who just tried filing a harassment complaint? Sharika said with dry amusement. Your son-in-law said your card was manipulative and disruptive. Carla blinked. It was a greeting card. The county dismissed it immediately. But it's interesting how nervous he's getting. Good, Carla said flatly. At the next legal meeting, Carla sat across from Sharika in the cramped conference room, with the humming fluorescent lights and old coffee stains on the carpet. Sharika slid a file toward her. We found some. Inside were documents linking Kyle to a shell corporation that had funneled Carla's diverted pension through false consulting payments. Sharika's tone shifted. He's now open to criminal liability, fraud, elder abuse, wire transfer violations. Carla didn't smile. She just said, what's next? I sent them a pre-filing letter, Sharika replied, and got a call within hours. By week's end, Carla sat across from Melissa and Kyle in a mediation office, not to negotiate, but to watch them squirm. Sharika did most of the talking. Carla just watched as Melissa's hands shook, her once pristine nails chipped and uneven. Kyle barely looked up. The terms were straightforward. Carla would pause formal criminal charges. In return, Melissa and Kyle would issue full financial restitution. The forged mortgage would be vacated. Carla would receive a lump settlement within 60 days. Melissa signed. She didn't speak. Kyle muttered something under his breath but signed too. As Carla gathered her things, Melissa stood. This is going to ruin us. Carla paused at the door. I didn't ruin you. You did that the moment you chose Kyle over integrity. Melissa's face flushed but no words came. The house Melissa lives in is now in foreclosure. Carla removed her co-signature. She had waited until the paperwork was finalized, then called the bank directly. My signature was obtained fraudulently, she'd said. I want to rescind authorization. And just like that, the anchor they'd built their lives on slipped. That night, Carla's burner phone buzzed. Voicemail. Melissa's voice was raw, broken. You're destroying us. Are you happy? Carla stood in her motel room, lights off, coat still on, staring into the quiet dark. She didn't answer the phone, but she whispered, I'm not happy. Melissa leaves a voicemail. You're destroying us. Are you happy? Was I happy? No, but I was free. Carla didn't call back. She didn't owe Melissa closure wrapped in comfort. Let her sit in the same silence she once forced Carla to swallow every night in that suffocating house. Instead, Carla put on her scarf, stepped out into the morning cold, and took her usual walk along the river trail. It was brisk, golden with early leaves, and almost completely still. The quiet wasn't emptiness. It was space, her own space. She stopped at a bakery near the bridge, where the young barista always remembered her name and asked about her painting. After breakfast, she spent the afternoon at the community center, helping one of the newer support group members draft a financial exit plan from an emotionally abusive daughter. Carla had become a kind of quiet leader in the group, not loud, not polished, but unshakable. The others listened when she spoke, not because she demanded attention, but because she no longer feared the sound of her own voice. That night, she curled up with a box of handwritten letters, not from Melissa, not from Kyle, from strangers, from women across the country who had read the feature in the National Elder Justice Journal and decided to share their stories. I thought I was alone. You gave me the courage to leave. My daughter did the same thing to me. Some were bitter, some grateful, all were raw. Carla read every one. In her journal she wrote, I didn't want revenge. I just wanted to stop apologizing for existing. Later she sat on the motel bed and replayed Melissa's voicemail again. You're destroying us. Are you happy? She let the question hang in the air, like smoke. Then she picked up the phone and called the burner line Melissa had used. Melissa answered almost immediately. Mom, Carla's voice was calm, low and steady. I'm not happy you're suffering, she said. I'm just not carrying it anymore. Then she hung up. The next day, Carla checked her email. A single message sat unread. From Melissa. Subject, the kids. They want to see you. Melissa responds with one sentence. The kids want to see you. I wanted to see them, but not as the broken woman they remembered. Carla arrived at the park 15 minutes early. She wore soft gray slacks, a forest green scarf, and a calm she hadn't felt in years. No nerves, no performance, just presence. She brought no gifts, no guilt, only a small photo album wrapped in twine. She waited on a sun-warmed bench near the playground where a few kids laughed in the distance. The wind had the scent of pine and dry leaves. Colorado settling into early fall. Then she saw them. Jacob, age 9 now. Ella, 6. Taller than she remembered. Their eyes scanned the park until Jacob spotted her and took off running. Ella followed, slower but smiling wide. Grandma! The hug nearly knocked her back. They clung to her like a raft in a current. Carla held them both tightly, then eased them back to look at their faces. I missed you, Jacob said, his voice muffled against her coat. I missed you too, she whispered. They sat on the bench and talked about school, favorite snacks, Halloween costumes. Carla didn't ask about their parents. She let the children lead. Ella reached for Carla's scarf and played with the fringe. Why did you leave? She asked softly. Carla took a breath. Sometimes grown-ups need to take care of themselves too. It doesn't mean I stopped loving you. It means I had to remember how to love myself too. Jacob nodded slowly. Are you still mad at Mommy? Carla didn't lie. I'm not mad. I'm just healing. Like when you get a scrape. It stings, but then it scabs and gets stronger. The kids seemed to accept that. Children, after all, don't need full stories, just the truth wrapped gently. Melissa arrived 30 minutes later. She stayed back, watching them, arms folded, no sunglasses, no makeup. She didn't interrupt. Carla didn't invite her closer. They were no longer bound by obligation. Distance now had meaning. Before the kids left, Carla handed them the small photo album. Inside were snapshots of birthdays, vacations, messy cookie baking sessions, memories that weren't filtered or polished, just life. I kept these for you, she said. Jacob clutched the album like a treasure. Will we ever have Thanksgiving together again? He asked. Carla smiled sadly. I don't know, sweetheart, but we'll always have each other, even when we're not in the same room. One of them asks, will we ever have Thanksgiving together again? I promised nothing, because I owed them nothing. The invitation arrived 3 weeks before Thanksgiving. It wasn't handwritten, heartfelt, or even particularly warm. Just a group text from Melissa. We're doing dinner around 3. Hope you'll come. Kids would love it. Carla didn't respond. She didn't need to. Instead, she spent Thanksgiving morning in Miriam's small kitchen, stirring cranberry sauce and brushing egg wash over golden pie. The table was set for 4 women from her support group, 2 from the community center, and a retired teacher who had nowhere else to go. No one shared DNA, but the air was thick with laughter, warmth, and homemade cinnamon rolls. They went around the table sharing not what they were thankful for, but what they had reclaimed. Peace, one woman said. My voice. Another added. When it was Carla's turn, she simply said, time. She didn't mean hours on a clock. She meant time that belonged to her now. Time not spent serving people who weaponized her love. After dessert, they lingered over spiced cider. A woman who had barely spoken all evening reached for Carla's hand. You made today feel like home. Carla smiled. She hadn't known she was capable of giving that again. But maybe the kind of family that matters is the kind you choose. She stood to give a toast. Sometimes, she said, raising her glass, family is who walks in, not who you waited on. Murmurs of agreement echoed. Eyes shimmered. No one clapped. It wasn't that kind of moment. It was quieter, deeper. Later that night, after the dishes were done and the last slice of pie wrapped in foil, Carla checked her phone. A message from Melissa. You could have come. Carla stared at the screen for a long moment, then tapped delete without opening it. No anger, no triumph, just the simple satisfaction of not needing to explain herself anymore. A letter arrives, handwritten from Kyle. His words weren't an apology, they were a negotiation. The envelope was thick, the paper creamy and expensive. The handwriting on the front was unmistakably Kyle's, overly neat, the kind of script that screamed curated sincerity. Carla didn't open it right away. She brewed tea, sat by the window, watched a squirrel attempt a high-wire act along the backyard fence. Only when the cup was nearly empty did she slit the top with a butter knife and pull out the folded pages. Carla, it began, we've all made mistakes. I think enough time has passed for us to start fresh. The kids miss you. Melissa and I are going through a tough time right now, and I think your presence could help steady things. We'd like to move forward. Let's rebuild this family. Let's put it behind us. Not once did he say sorry. Not once did he mention the money, the forged documents, the manipulation, the accusations. It wasn't an apology. It was a business pitch. He ended with, I have a promising job opportunity in Seattle. A reset. Melissa's open to it. We could all use some stability right now, especially the kids. Let me know if you want to be part of that. Carla stared at the last sentence. Let me know if you want to be part of that. As if she hadn't spent the last year learning that she was whole without them. She didn't write back. She scanned the letter, emailed a copy to Sharika with the subject line, from Kyle. Do not respond. Then she slid the pages into the fireplace, lit a match and watched it all blacken and curl to ash. The next morning, Carla stood in the corner of a downtown gallery, sipping cider beside a wall of canvas portraits. They were hers. A series titled What They Took, What We Kept. Each piece told a silent story of reclamation, an open suitcase, a locked jewelry box, a woman's back turned as she walks into sunlight. The crowd moved slowly, respectfully. One woman wept. Miriam nudged Carla's arm. The gallery owner said someone bought the entire set. Carla blinked. All of it? Anonymous buyer, Miriam added. Paid up front. Said it was personal. The gallery owner says, someone bought all your pieces, anonymously. I didn't expect the name, but I wasn't surprised either. The gallery owner called 2 days later. Buyer revealed themselves, said it was okay to share. Figured you'd recognize the name. Carla held her breath. It was Melissa. The words didn't sting. Not exactly. They landed more like a question. Melissa hadn't reached out, hadn't offered a phone call, hadn't said a word at Thanksgiving. Instead, she had written a check. Quiet, private, avoidant. The gallery forwarded the payment and enclosed a note. This is the only way I know to say I'm sorry. Carla sat with it for hours. No storm of emotion, just the slow burn of realization. Melissa still hadn't learned how to speak her mother's language. She only knew how to buy silence. Carla considered returning the check. Instead, she cashed it and wrote a donation to the local Women's Legal Support Center in Melissa's name. She included a short typed note. Thank you. But we are not a story with a neat ending. 3 days later, Melissa responded by email. I read your words. I understand now that love isn't supposed to feel like I'm still learning what love looks like when it's not conditional. There was no manipulation in the message. No guilt. No grasping. Just a thread. And Carla chose not to tug it. She didn't reply. Instead, she pulled out one last canvas blank, stretched, waited. She painted for days. Not with rage or sorrow, but with something else. Resolve. At the center of the painting stood a woman facing away, her shoulders squared, her hand gripping a suitcase handle, not out of escape but direction. The title, The Mother Who Stayed Long Enough to Leave. Carla titles it, The Mother Who Stayed Long Enough to Leave. Weeks later, the courthouse requested artwork for its new domestic affairs lobby, paintings about resilience, identity, and justice. Carla donated her piece without hesitation. The painting is hung in the courthouse lobby. I didn't get justice. I got something quieter, stronger, mine. The house Carla rented was tucked just past the forest line, where the trees whispered in the wind and the mornings came with soft frost on the porch railing. No one shouted here. No one made demands. She paid her own rent, cooked only when she felt like it, walked each morning on her own terms. She taught part-time now, painting techniques, creative expression, journaling for recovery. Her classes were small but sacred. Women came not just to paint but to exhale. Carla didn't preach, she offered presence, and presence was enough. One afternoon, she was invited to speak on a national webcast for elder justice awareness. She spoke plainly. I don't have a story of revenge, she said. What I have is the story of a woman who stopped asking permission to exist. The nonprofit featured her courthouse painting in brochures. Her inbox overflowed with thank you notes from daughters and mothers, grandmothers and widows. You helped me walk away. You gave me the language. You made me brave. Carla read every one with quiet gratitude. The grandkids still messaged her, drawings in crayon, voice memos, describing school projects, the occasional I miss you. Carla replied simply, steadily, never promising what she couldn't give, never letting them carry the burden their parents refused to hold. She wasn't a ghost, but she wasn't a martyr either, just herself. One Sunday, she walked past the neighborhood she once lived in, the brick house with the double garage and cold silences. She didn't slow down, didn't stop, just walked by with her chin high, scarf tucked tight, eyes forward. At the edge of the woods, the trail curved. Carla smiled, not bitterly, not triumphantly, just freely, and whispered to herself, they gave me a choice. I chose me. Carla smiles, and whispers, they gave me a choice. I chose me.